everyone. Thank you so much for coming here. My name is Jocelyn Jaws Wang. I'm the president of the Asian American Journalists Association of Los Angeles. And on behalf of AAJALA, I want to thank you for being here. And I also wanted to thank the Japanese American National Museum and the National Center of the Preservation for Democracy for hosting us here for this event. I want to spend just a minute to tell you a little bit about AAJA and why we're sponsoring this event, and then I'll introduce the moderator. The Asian American Journalists Association, AAJA, is a national organization consisting of over 1,700 members around the world. The Los Angeles chapter was the founding chapter here in 1981, so we're celebrating our 31st anniversary this year, and we do all kinds of great events, not just for our members who are mostly professional journalists, but not all, including training for media literacy and access for community organizations, as well as fundraisers so that we can provide scholarships for young and up-and-coming professionals. So I'm not sure if any of you have heard of our signature fundraising event, Trivia Bowl, which is hosted by our very own David Ono, who's a board member and MC of the event. But we are going to be doing our Trivia Bowl next month at ABC 7, and that will be in support of our for our scholarship programs. At any rate, not going to do a huge pitch, but as I say at every event where I greet everybody, I actually welcome all of you to consider joining AAJA. And you may be thinking, but wait, I'm not a journalist, but you actually don't have to be Asian, American, or a journalist to become a member. You just have to be passionate about our mission, which is to help Asian Americans have more visibility, especially in news media, and also to help up-and-coming young journalists train themselves and come up into the profession, and hopefully help us tell our stories as Asian Americans. So at any rate, thank you so much for that little pitch, and thank you for being here. And I want to introduce to you the moderator for today's session, Tina Dejima. Tina is a college professor and simultaneous interpreter in Japan, and she started doing relief work in Tohoku on March 12, 2011, the day after the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami. She is a board member of the Disaster Support Project, a nonprofit organization in Miyagi Prefecture, and continues to organize relief work in the Tohoku region. So here you go, Tina Dejima.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And I'm so glad that you're here. And we pretty much have a full house. On behalf of the people of Japan, I would like to express deep gratitude for your generous response and support to the disasters that overwhelmed Japan on March 11th last year. As Jaz introduced me, my full name is Hiroko Tina Tajima. And I'm a college professor and also a simultaneous interpreter for the United Nations and the Japanese government. And I started relief work for Tohoku on March 12th, a day after the great earthquake and tsunami. I flew 2 helicopters and sent out numerous trucks with relief aids from Tokyo and Yokohama up to Tohoku. Since then, I've been back to Tohoku numerous times, and then I started writing updates and then sent out to people in Los Angeles and also in Hawaii, primarily Japanese Americans. No offense there. I became a board member of the Disaster Support Project, which is a nonprofit organization based in Japan. And we've had 3 gatherings, and then so in the past, the last one was on December 28th last year, and then that was the first one that we had a panel with me and then another Japanese lady, and others were Japanese Americans. And then I talked to Daryl, and then I said, it might be a good idea to have a gathering and then hear, from the Japanese American point of view, instead of Nihonjin Japanese point of view. So we decided to have this gathering today. I know that you don't want me to go on and on and on. So and I'm here as a moderator. So I'll just go ahead and introduce these 6 beautiful people over here in the order of the names listed in the program. I hope that you pick this up. I understand that there are a few Japanese speakers in this audience, and I hope that you are comfortable listening to them, speak in English. 今先ほど日本語をお話しになった方というのがいらっしゃったようなんですけれども、後から質疑応答の時間ございますので、もしも日本語で質問がありましたら、どうぞ日本語でしていただければ私の方で日本語にお読みいたしますので、どうぞご遠慮なく日本語でご質問いただければと思います。Well, I just basically said what I said in English. Just so that you know. First of all, Diane Fukami, I told her that when I introduced her, then I'll just say that Diane Fukami is a model up in San Francisco. And she said, no, just read whatever that's written in the program. So, Diane Fukami is an award-winning documentary producer, director, and broadcast journalist from San Francisco. She and Deborah Nakatomi are producing a documentary showing the connection between Japanese Americans and the survivors of the Tohoku disaster entitled With Heart and Hope. The program showcases the remarkable resilience and recovery of the Japanese in Tohoku, the efforts of Japanese Americans in the United States to help the survivors, and the role of Japanese Americans in U.S.-Japan relations. And the second speaker is Derek Yamashita. In the program, it says he is a second-year global studies major at the University of California, Santa Barbara, but he hasn't started the sophomore year yet, so he will be a sophomore at the UC Santa Barbara in about 2 weeks. Following the disasters on March 11th, Derek started a T-shirt fundraiser, which was raised over $11,000 for Japan Relief. Thank you, Derek. He also traveled to Tohoku with his 2012 Karasaki Foundation Japan educational tour to witness the Tohoku's recovery firsthand. And he just came back about 2 months ago? About 2 months ago. Third speaker is Sachiko Taki Reese, and she is Jungian analyst, a faculty of the C.G. Jung Institute of Los Angeles. She specializes in sand play work at Silver Lake past 35 years. As a practitioner of trauma healing, she delivered lectures in Fukushima and Ishinomaki in October 2011 and stayed for a week to provide consultation. Since then, she continues to consult therapists in Ishinomaki by Skype. And the fourth speaker, I probably don't need to introduce him, as you probably know him and then watch him on TV all the time. David Ono is an Emmy Award-winning news anchor for ABC 7 in Los Angeles. He flew to Japan to cover the March 11th disaster last year and returned this year to do follow-up stories for the 1-year anniversary. He won 3 Emmy Awards this year, including one for Witness American Heroes, a documentary about the 100th Infantry Battalion 442nd Regimental Combat Team. And the fifth speaker, Naomi Hirahara, a novelist and a former journalist, spent 2 weeks this summer in Ishinomaki, Miyagi Prefecture, as a relief worker with Grace Tohoku Mission, our faith-based relief group. Serving as editor of the Rafu Shimpo English section from 1990 to 1996, she is the Edgar Award-winning author of the Must Arai Mystery series, which features an atomic bomb survivor who solves crimes. And last but not least, sixth speaker, Daro Miho, is co-founder of I Love Japan, as well as photojournalist and writer. By the way, he took a picture of me in the program. I love this picture. He has visited Tohoku region 8 times since the March 11th disasters and has been documenting survivor stories and recovery effort in order to raise more awareness and to provide direct aid to communities that are in need. And once again, I really appreciate all your effort and the support and prayers, for the Tohoku and the people in Tohoku. And we would like to ask Diane to start. Thank you.
God, Tina, you're taller than I am. Sorry. I just have to work. All right. With Heart and Hope is the documentary that's currently in post-production right now. We've done all the shooting for it, and right now we're trying to figure out what parts to include, what parts have to be omitted. We started out doing just an hour documentary, and we have, I can't tell you how many hours of video. The project really started as an idea. I'm on the board of the Japanese Cultural Community Center of Northern California, so thank you so much for welcoming this NorCal outsider. I really appreciate it. And just hours after the tsunami and the earthquake and the nuclear disaster in Japan, we started getting calls from people in our community wanting to know how they can help. And because the center had had some experience in dealing with the Kobe quake, we had sort of a template that we worked with and started organizing and setting up ways that people could donate money. That ended up being phenomenally successful, sort of beyond our imagination. We thought we might be able to raise $1 million or so because we raised $600,000 in 1995 for the Kobe quake, and we ended up raising a little over $4 million. We had forgotten that Facebook and social networking, you can just press a button and do your credit card and get money, And so there were supporters from all over the country, all across the world, and it was quite heartening to see all these connections and reconnections and people who are really committed to helping the survivors in Tohoku. And Deborah Nakatomi and I had become close friends since a 2009 trip to Japan. And so as we were musing about this, she from her community down here in Southern California, we thought, wow, the Japanese American communities and the NGOs across the country are raising a lot of money for the Tohoku disaster. And when we started sort of toting it up, we realized that about $38 million was being raised by Japanese American NGOs. And these are agencies whose primary purpose is not a relief organization or a fundraising organization. Like many of them, they're Japan Societies or the Japan American Society or JCL or, the different community centers we have. But because this desire to help the people in Tohoku was such a global one, everybody had sort of been pressed into service. And we're just counting the money from the NGOs that we know of. We're not counting the JA dollars that went into Japanese Red Cross or American Red Cross or any of those other things. And so the two of us started talking about this and saying, wow, there's a story there. Why are people donating, and what is this money going to, and how are the JAs helping the people in Tohoku? So we decided to explore that through a documentary. I have had some experience in documentary production, and Deborah has a network of people here in Southern California and frankly nationally through in the JA community, plus her media experience. So as we started talking about this, we realized that there were a number of stories that sort of that would work for this documentary. There are connections to Japan, and as a sansei, and we're both sansei, as a sansei, it was an opportunity for we sansei to reconnect back to our grandparents' homes. But also as yonsei, as gosei, and people who really haven't had that connection, it was a chance to reconnect or to look at new connections and to see how we could help and establish links that maybe were fragile or had not been nurtured throughout the years. And then we also realized that we had, a new generation of people who really help represent the immigrant experience. We all are sons and daughters of immigrants here in this country. And as we started talking to the younger people, we realized that they may be 4, 5, 6 generations removed from their ancestors in Japan, but they really sort of typify much of the American experience, which is this desire to explore the land of your ancestry, find out more about that. And so what we did is we put together a documentary that threaded the Japanese American experience through the survivors of Tohoku and their stories. What you're going to be seeing today, we're showing you, is a very short, what we call a rough cut. Now, you know how we used to do those term papers in school, and you'd have a rough draft and then a this and that? This is kind of the rough draft version of videotape, okay? So this is a rough cut, and it's not in its final form yet, but we wanted to give you an idea of some of what we're doing. This is one story of many that we're covering, and it's very Southern California based. I think you're going to see some people that you recognize in here. And it sort of shows the LA angle of what can happen when Japanese Americans decide to get involved in Tohoku. So, Daryl's going to roll the video.
For a long time, I've been interested in U.S.-Japan relations. I know that it's a very important thing for the future. Myself, I lived 3 years in a camp in Arizona during my high school years. And I'd like to see that such a thing would not happen again. This is the places that I've lectured in. When this disaster happened, first I wanted to do something, so I had donated $200,000. Subsequently, I went to Ishinomaki to see if I could find some opportunities for students in the U.S. to volunteer in Japan. I decided that I would try to sponsor a students' tour to Japan.
Like, what was that lady's name? I can't even remember what it was. Her last name was Ogawa.
We were able to find 25 students from colleges around here in Los Angeles. Well, you know, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but actually being there is worth 1,000 pictures because it's a big difference.
It's crazy. You can see like the tree line where like the water was, and all the trees are dead right there.
Probably in the kitchen once.
Yeah.
I knew the moment I saw what happened with the tsunami, I knew I had to do something. I've worked with various other organizations raising money, but like donating money, you don't really see it. And I wanted to be here and see it firsthand and really understand what the people are going through and hear their stories personally, because the emotion I felt watching it is nothing compared to this, and that's the main reason I wanted to come.
防災庁舎のすぐ近くに、俺が生まれた36年前から食堂をやってたんですね、親が。それであと兄と2人で飲み屋をやってましたね。唯一自分のものが見つかったのは調理師免許だったんですね。拾ってきてくれた人がいて、顔も知られてるっていうのもあって、こっち解散して、このスタッフが解散してから料理作れませんかって言われて、避難所に住みながら朝5時過ぎに 半年ぐらいやりました。3食で、俺はその後避難所解散してもずっと物資を配り続けてるんです。ここのオープンまで。
あ、そうだ。
はい。
あ、じゃあずっとボランティア、被災者ボランティアみたいな。
被災者ボランティアしました。
素晴らしいね。
はい。金も稼がずにずっと。
どう気持ちいい？
いや、あんまり疲れましたね。やっぱりもらったもらってないあるじゃないですか。やっぱり全部が全部平等にはできない。あと俺の顔見て物資くださいって言ってくるおばちゃんたちが増えたっていう。それはちょっと悲しいっていうか。ね、隣の家はあるんだけど私んちはもらってないっていう話ばっかりされて、ストレス発散に使われました。電話でおごられて、あんまりいい思い出はないですね。
なるほど。
はい、ちょっと正直傷つきましたね。いいことしてるような感じだけども結局なんか恨みを買ってたっつうか。支援団体さんがすごく毎週炊き出しに来てくれる支援団体さんがいて、でこういうのどうですかと言って持ちかけてきてくれて、
多分それは前から避難所を解散する時にはもう集まれる場所がなくなったねっていうことと、それと個々の仮設住宅に行くと今まで体育館の中で大きな屋根の中にみんな一緒に生活してたのが個々の部屋になってしまうと引きこもる人も出てくる可能性もあるし。